Hey everyone, it's another Talking Race Walking shoe review. So race walking shoe review, and this time it's actually a race walk specific shoe. So what shoe am I talking about? Who makes race walk specific shoes? Well, the sponsor of our my podcast, the Talking Race Walking podcast, Reshod race walking shoes made by Carmen Jakinski, a race walker and coach in the US. They're one. The other one right now, the only other one that I'm aware of, is NewFeel shoes that are made specifically mainly for Decathlon. So Decathlon stores, we have them here in Canada, I think they're in the States as well, and they're all over Europe and everywhere. So I think originating from France. So that's the shoe we're going to talk about. So not all of their shoes, but the NewFeel RW900. So RW for race walking. So this is a race walking specific shoe. We're going to go through it. There it is. Actually, I'll show it first so you can take a look at it. So it's side view. Moving to the front. Medial side, the inside. And the back. The bottom. And the top. See the tongue there. So we'll go through what the shoe is supposed to do. So it's a race walking specific shoe. They say it comes in at 220 grams. Of course, that's for, I think, a size 9 or a size 10. Usually varies, but 220 grams. It's relatively light. It's not a heavy shoe. In terms of cost, I'm going to do pounds and Canadian dollars, but it's relatively inexpensive compared to some of the running shoes you can get now, especially the carbon fiber stuff and the super shoes or that type of thing. It's not a $200 shoe. I think I saw it retailing recently, normal price around £60, so just over $100 Canadian. So probably make it under $100 US. So reasonably priced training shoe. The RW900 is meant to be kind of a mileage shoe. There is another version they make that I've seen that I'll try and get a review of as well. That is one up from this, is kind of the ultra endurance shoe. You know, for those guys who would have been doing 50K, that doesn't really exist anymore. But it has a little more to it. So let's go through here. As you can see, it almost looks like it would be like a zero drop shoe. It says it has 6mm drop. I've had this shoe on. It doesn't feel like there's much of a difference from the heel to the toe, but they're stating that it's 6mm drop. It feels pretty flat to me. And the other thing to notice as well is it's not a huge thick midsole. So you're not coming up off the ground. You feel like you're really your feet are on the ground. It doesn't feel like there's a whole bunch of drop from heel to toe. And it's not thick. It's not a thick feeling midsole. It doesn't feel thick when you stand in it and when you walk in it. I'll talk about that in a second. So we're going to go through some of the things in the shoe. One of the things they say they have is the fact that it is flexible. Okay, that's fine. You can actually see the flex grooves here, okay, which most shoes do have, but they indicate that as well that it is there. So for that sort of rolling from heel to toe, there is a good deal of flex. It is a fairly flexible shoe, at least at that midfoot point. It really does flex quite well. Laterally, there is some structure, and that goes to what they call the Shank plate. And you can see it here through the little window in the midsole. You actually feel it. There's a plastic piece that reinforces the midsole and the mid portion of the foot, so you can't twist it like a wet noodle. So there is some stability here. So it's a stability through the midfoot, flexible at the forefoot. And then what they talk about actually here is, what do they call it? They call it the heel roll technology. I have a hard time seeing what it is. It does come up a little bit, but not a lot more than regular running shoes. But they call it a heel roll technology. It's slightly rounded, if you can see there, but nothing crazy compared to a lot of the really rockered sort of like running shoes or even walking shoes now. They're really rockered, especially some of the carbon fiber ones that seem to have a good really rocker at the front and sometimes even one at the back. So compared to these guys, yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, there's a little bit. So I'm not going to put much credence in that one. They then talk about the midsole. You've got an EVA foam here. They call it is it Callan Sole EVA? It's just their own brand of EVA cushioning, which is really in most running shoes. You have EVA and you have polyurethane, which is a little bit denser durometer, so a thicker, different feeling cushion. This is just kind of your regular EVA cushioning. And then here, you'll see they have another type of what they call the orange EVA, which is supposed to provide that extra cushion at that input point in the forefoot. Okay, so that's what that orange is. So they add some slightly different, higher impact, more rebound EVA in the forefoot there, and then your regular EVA. What's the midsole feel like? That cushion? Is it hard? Is it soft? Okay, well it's not extra spongy. It's not like the really, really light running shoes with that really soft compressible midsole, especially if you look at the super shoes like the one I just did in terms of the Asics super shoe. It's got a really soft heel where in terms of you impact and you really compress it. This one, there's not a lot of midsole to start with at the heel, and it compresses, but it's not uber soft, and even if it was, there's not much to compress. So there's that. We then move to the upper, fairly breathable upper. The mesh here, you can't really see it, but it's not particularly thick, but not particularly extra light. It's kind of like one of those almost knitted ones. So there is some flex here. The shoe overall, if you've got a wider foot, this doesn't come in widths. It just comes in one sort of size, fit and width. So the regular width is all it is. It is not particularly wide. I don't have a particularly wide foot. I find it fits okay. But if you got a wider foot or foot issues, or you need a little more room, this may not cut it, but it's not bad. It's not the narrowest shoe I've had, but it isn't extra roomy. And then as well, if you move up, lots of laces. There's a good deal of lace here, probably more than I think is really warranted. And you can see the laces are kind of offset a little bit. Just opposed to going just straight back forward. This offset a little bit. A lot of laces. And then it's kind of a sock liner kind of tongue. So it's all attached. So you kind of have to pull it in and sort of put your foot in. It holds quite snug. And there is no extra eyelet back here like some running shoes to snug that up. But you do have that sock liner kind of tongue that keeps you snug. And then a fair amount of lace. I've worn this shoe and there's a lot of lace. When I race walk, actually, I tie them up, but I like to take the laces and tuck them back in here because I find sometimes with race walking, with all the foot movement and everything, the laces can kind of swing around and snap. So I like to tuck them away. These ones you can tuck it away. There's just a lot of lace, whether you want to cut them or whatever. But there's a good deal of lace with these shoes. The heel counter, there is a plastic piece in here. It's not extra firm, but it does what it's supposed to. It's supposed to hold your heel. And then at the back here, you've got that extra piece above the heel counter. It's fairly soft. I haven't had any issues with that sort of hitting my Achilles tendon or anything. Fairly comfortable inside. Removable sock liner, which is that little guy here. So that will come out. You can replace it. It's your regular EVA midsole. It compresses fairly quickly. You could replace something in there. There isn't a lot of volume though this way. So if you've got a big high instep or anything else, the shoe's not going to accommodate that. So fairly low profile. They say 6mm drop. I say it doesn't feel like it. Feels pretty darn flat. Not a thick heel. So then what's the experience like? Oh, sorry. Carbon rubber, but they do say non-marking outsole. So I guess if you're using it indoors, you're not going to mark up the gym floor. Hopefully you're wearing it outdoors, and I think indoor tracks wouldn't have an issue with marking, but they mark it as one of the sort of selling points. So getting back to the shoe, you've got all the specifics on it. It's fairly light, low profile, not thick midsole. I did want to mention too, they put that shank in, but there is a little plastic piece here that's visible, and I think that's that shank in there. It does wrap up slightly around the heel of the shoe and around the midfoot a little bit, just providing that little more stability. So what's it like to wear? Well, you'll get noticed in it. It is orange. I do believe it's still available. I don't believe you can get this online or at the Canadian Decathlon stores anymore. That's the downside. I think you can. I've fandangled to get these sometimes when I was first starting out and I was really seeing what shoe worked for me. You can get hold of these. It's a little harder to do so. So for the folks that can, or the folks that want to, my experience with the shoe is they say it's made for race walking. I've seen Evan Dunfee wear these. I've seen other elites wear this shoe as well. They all now seem to have switched to super shoes or something else. My experience was it's not a bad shoe. It works, but I didn't feel like it was making me, that it was any better than some of the running shoes I was wearing. It didn't feel like, oh my goodness, it's making race walking so much easier. It feels like a race walking shoe. I didn't get that. And I actually found that when you wear these, they actually feel fairly flat. And there isn't much rocker here. I often found that you could almost catch your toe out race walking with these. So and I wasn't a big fan of that. And if you're that person that is moving at a faster pace or almost like kind of like straight-legged running style, and you're going at a decent clip, there's not a lot of cushion at the heel if you're coming down. If you've got a nice smooth technique and you're moving along, you're not coming off the ground too much, whatever kind of technique you use, this might work for you. But as I say, there's not a lot of thick cushion at the heel. It will cushion you, but yeah, it's not thick. So that is my review of the shoe. It's a NewFeel RW900. Sold at Decathlon stores. It is online. You can look it up. NewFeel RW900. There is an RW500 that I'll try and get a hold of. I don't think I have a pair at home anymore. It's a lighter weight, much more flexible version of this shoe that I've seen people use for quick intervals or workouts or even racing. But this one, low profile, light, specifically made for race walking. And there you are. All right. There you go. Remember that you have different feet than anybody else out there as well. You're going to weigh different than your friend. Your technique will be different. The pace you race walk will be different. A whole bunch of things. So that the shoe that works for one person may not work for you, but I'm providing you some reviews of the shoes, the specifics, the technology, and how they fit, so you can perhaps use that information to choose what shoe works for you. So if you liked the video, let me know what you use to race walk in. What model, what brand do you use, and why? And I'll try and get a hold of those and maybe do a review. So thanks a lot. Please like and subscribe to support what I'm doing. I enjoy the sport and love promoting it. Happy walking. See you out there.